UFC Vegas 42, aka UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Welcome to our prelim card prediction video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan, I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, we are giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from the betting perspective. Here to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights you want to stay away from, which underdog perhaps has the best shot at winning. And sticking around to the end of the video, you get some parlay action as well. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you support the content. Press the thumbs up on the video, and most importantly, we want to hear you in the comments. Let us know what your picks are. Let us know how you feel about our picks. Let us know if you need some specific advice on a particular parlay that you're looking at. We are more than happy to give you all of that in the comments below. But like I mentioned, for this UFC Vegas 42 card, we are going to start with our prelim fights. We have 12 fights on this card overall. We have 7 fights on the prelim. So we're going to get started with fight number 1. And in fight number 1, we have Kennedy and Nzechukwu taking on Jung. I'll start with the breakdown here, looking at Kennedy and Nzechukwu. He beat Danilo Marquez back in June. He's actually on a 3-fight win streak now. 3-1 in the UFC, 9-1 record overall. Very long southpaw. I mean, we see here he's going to have almost a 5-inch reach advantage over Jung. Pretty long jab, 1-2, long combinations down the middle. He does have some pop as well in his straight punches. Of course, this is a light heavyweight bout where most guys have some pop, so he's definitely fits the bill there. He will stalk you down. You know, expect him to stay in control of the center. Likes to come forward as well. Decent movement, improved footwork. Probably not the most active striker, but he kind of throws one shot at a time at times, but definitely an improved striker from what I've seen fight over fight, 4 fights into the UFC at this point, improved combinations. And I mean, he has shown me some ability to defend takedowns in his last fight, or at least scramble and kind of stay active and try to get back up. That might matter in this fight. He's going up against Jung. Jung, of course, averages 2.79 takedowns per fight. I will get to that shortly. He beat William Knight in April via unanimous decision. Skill-wise, I like what I see from him. You know, patient stand-up, good hands, more of a boxer than anything in terms of what he offers on the feet. Cuts the ring off pretty well, good fakes and feints, good in and out movement. And like I mentioned, he can take the fight to the ground. You see 2.79 takedowns per fight. That's a pretty respectable number. You also see 61% accuracy. That is a very respectable number as well. That takedown number versus Kennedy and Nzechukwu, that's going to be important in this fight because Nzechukwu has 80% takedown defense. Let's see how true that 80% takedown defense is. Somewhat of a small sample size with just 4 fights. But ultimately, prediction-wise, Nzechukwu, he gets better as the fight goes on. I think he can use that in this match to his advantage, to keep it on the feet. I think he can use his length, I should say, and his reach advantage to keep it on the feet. And again, he's improving immensely fight over fight at this point. So we might just see another layer of him that we haven't seen before. Jung definitely has a path to victory here. I can see why Jung is the slight favorite. But I'm actually going to start this UFC Vegas 42 card with the underdog. I'm going with Kennedy and Nzechukwu. I think we're going to see a little bit of unexpected improvements out of him. If not, I think his reach advantage could work to his advantage to keep it on the feet and possibly start picking up in the later rounds.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment here. This is a tough fight though. With Kennedy, one thing that sticks out to me is he's huge for that weight class, and that's obviously gonna help him in this fight. I know he's fighting a fighter that is 6'4", so he's not gonna have that big of a height advantage, but his reach, like he has a lot of reach on this guy. So I can see Kennedy definitely utilizing his boxing, his reach. He definitely marches his opponents down, and he does have some pop. And we know that in his last fight versus Danilo Marquez, he was getting taken down then. In the 3rd round, he came back and won the fight. So his power is there, his cardio is there, his heart is there. But I'm actually going to bank. I'm going to go with Jung. I actually think he's just a better fighter. I think his IQ is his biggest thing. The takedowns will be there. And he does have some pop in his hand as well. I think in a fight like this, he could be the more technical striker. And he does have the takedowns as well. So I'm going to go with Jung. I just think he's the better fighter. I see that Kennedy is the bigger guy. He's going to have that size in there that could pretty much give him the win here. But I think Jung has that IQ here to keep it on the feet, throw some leg kicks, do some boxing, eventually get a takedown. And I think he can keep top position there. So I'm going to go Jung here to get this done in the first fight of the evening.
Moving on to fight number 2, we have Marc Diakiese taking on Rafael Alves. This is definitely a tough lightweight fight, I should say, to call here. Marc Diakiese, he lost to Rafael Fiziev back in July of 2020. It's been over a year since his last fight, of course. That being said, 5-4 in the UFC, so a little bit inconsistent. He has faced some stiff competition though, so that's almost expected. Good overall stand-up, good feints, good movement, really good calf kick, effortlessly throws things like spinning kicks. He's pretty athletic is what I mean by that. Good long jab. He can definitely switch stance, solid hands, solid two-punch combination, solid kickboxer in general. He can absolutely be taken down. 62% takedown defense, but I see the way that he defends takedowns and it's not that good. That won't really matter too much in this fight because Rafael Alves may not take it there. But doesn't really let his opponents lay and pray if he does get taken down. I've seen him scramble pretty decently. I've seen him use defensive Kimuras and things like that to try to get back to his feet. So he's not completely done if he is taken down. Historically, he's been able to land takedowns, 2 takedowns per fight, 2.16, the exact number there. Wouldn't really call it a weapon. He is more of a kickboxer than anything else. And, a high level, like in terms of beating Marc Diakiese, it's going to take sort of a high level pressured, constant striking. I noticed that's something that he can't really handle. I think about the Fiziev fight. I think about when he fought Dan Hooker. I think about when he fought Nasrat Haqparast. It's that sort of style that gives him problems. Talking about Rafael Alves for a bit here, he lost to Damir Ismagulov in May via unanimous decision. Has power, stalks you down. He can switch stance. Good kicks, throws a lot into them. I like his boxing as well. Very explosive fighter. He'll rush in with constant strikes, again, especially early in the fight. Yet at times he does stay pretty composed. He does stay pretty technical. And he has a good guillotine. He'll go for it, come out of nowhere at times, pretty tight. But again, it's more of a opportunistic type of thing rather than something that he sets up. I think Alves ultimately is live early in the fight with the way that he fights, with the power that he brings, with the explosiveness that he brings that gives Diakiese problems. But I do think Marc Diakiese will be able to handle that storm with good movement, with a good leg kick to slow Alves down before winning the later parts of the fight. Minus 175, not something that I would include on a parlay, but perhaps something I would bet live at the time. But Marc Diakiese is going to be my pick. I think he gets it done. I think he's more technical, and I think he wins the later parts of the round, or the fight, I should say.
Yeah, it's a tough fight because when you look at Rafael Alves, his record is he's 19-10, but he has one loss since 2016. So prior, he was losing all his fights early on in his career, and then obviously he switched the gear and he's picking it up. This guy has power. I can see him giving Diakese some problems here with that power. But again, yeah, he's one of those guys that he comes out strong early. He does tend to fade a bit as the fight goes on. I'm going to go with Marc Diakiese, the more well-rounded guy. In his last couple fights, he's been implementing takedowns. So I think he's going to utilize some takedowns in this fight. His movement's really good. And I'm expecting to see an improved Marc Diakiese here to get back on track here. Because at one point, he was a big prospect, a big deal coming out of England. He was supposed to be the next guy. He had some losses, 3 losses in a row, setbacks. He lost his last fight versus Fiziev. No shame in that. I think he's going to get back in here and get it done here and get his name back in the mix. So I'm going to go Marc Diakiese. move around the ring, utilize that speed advantage with the footwork, get some takedowns in there, and he can box as well. He can kickbox as well. So he does have good striking. He probably is the better striker here. He probably is, but Alves has that power, and he just goes in. He's ready to knock you out. But I think Diakiese can stay out of danger and get the win here.
Fight number 3, we have Diakese taking on Liana Jojua. Tough fight to call here. Diakese, she lost via split decision to JJ Aldrich back in March. Decent boxing, decent striking. Her record might be a little bit misleading. We see, of course, 9 wins, 9 losses, but she has taken on really good competition. I mean, she's faced a who's who in the division ultimately in terms of level of competition. Doesn't really have the best takedown defense. We've seen the defense look okay versus fighters like Mara Borella, whereas versus a fighter like Jillian Robertson, it was non-existent. If you just kind of go back to her fighting history, she likes to look for that armbar off of her back. She does have 2 of those on her resume, BJJ brown belt. Jojua lost to Miranda Maverick back in October of last year. Aggressive in the stand-up. She likes to come forward, likes to control the center. Decent jab straight combination, although it does get a bit repetitive. Don't really see many kicks thrown from her. Good arm, good at submission attempts, I should say, off of her back. 6 of her 8 wins are via submission. 5 of 6 of those are via armbar specifically. She does get 1.5 takedowns per fight, 66% accuracy, but I haven't really seen her shoot for takedowns, so I wouldn't really call it a strength. Although she is a Georgian fighter, and in a lot of ways, she probably has a lot of that natural ability on the ground. So that is something that she may be able to look after or look out for, especially with Diakese's lack of takedown defense. Really tough fight to call here. I mean, in a lot of ways, I can see this fight going exactly the way Diakese versus JJ Aldrich went, except Jojua not being as good of a striker, except Jojua not landing as many takedowns. And again, that was a split decision. I do think Jojua will control the center of the octagon like Aldrich did. I think Casey will be fighting from the outside. The difference is that, again, Jojua doesn't really show me the takedown entries that Aldrich was able to use. And I think that will be Liana Jojua's downfall. I don't think she has the IQ to incorporate that, but she does have a very clear path to victory, in my opinion. But ultimately, Diakese's striking diversity, I think, is going to work really well for her here. Jojua is going to have to implement something that we haven't seen from her before very actively, whereas Diakese can implement something that we have seen from her. So I am going to go with Diakese. Minus 210 is very steep. I actually think Jojua is a very live dog from that perspective. I will say completely avoid betting on this one, but in making a pick for the channel, I'm going with Diakese.
Yeah, it's tough to go with those odds. Diakese is a 9-9 fighter, 9 wins, 9 losses. So obviously, when you're looking at a fighter with that type of record, that type of favorite, you got to have some concerns. But when I look at Liana Jojua, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed in what she brings to the cage. I don't think she's UFC level, and I think I actually think Diakese should get this done here. I think she has the better striking. She has enough to keep this on the feet, and she may be able to get a couple of takedowns if she wants. She's been in the game long enough to be aware of the submission game from Jojua. I'm not sure how Jojua wins unless she catches her off her back, right? So I'm going to go Diakese. Again, she's 9-9, so it's hard to be confident here. But she is just a better fighter, and she is, even though she has losses, she is UFC level, and she has some wins against solid UFC fighters in the past. And I think she should get this done. I think she's smart enough to get this done here. She's the better fighter. Keep it where you're good, keep it standing, and she should win a striking match.
Fight number 4. In that case, we have Sean Woodson taking on Collin Anglin. Sean Woodson beat Yusuf Zalal via split decision back in June. Very long for the division. We know that he has that somewhat unique style where he'll switch stances a lot, although primarily a southpaw. He'll use the full extent of his height and reach. We see there he has a 7-inch reach advantage, and he has another 5 inches on height. He'll stalk down his opponent, very loose, very light in his movement, more of a volume pepper type of striker. almost like a Nick Diaz type from that perspective. A lot of fakes in his stance. He'll throw both hands and feet, quick, accurate hands as well. Keep the hands low, but because so much offense is coming from him, guys that beat Sean Woodson are guys that have more toughness than him, guys that put the pressure on him, guys that are willing to engage with him with some clinching. He is hard to take down though. 81% takedown defense, very long frame, has a lot of balance as well. Collin Anglin lost to Melsik Bagdasaryan in his debut back in July. Can't be too mad at that. A bit awkward on the feet, hands stay low. Tries to make up for it with, tries to make it hard for his opponents to time him in terms of keeping his hands down, making up for that. A lot of feints in the stand-up, good movement, good clinch. He does have a high school wrestling background. He can land takedowns, and he's pretty good on top. Good ground and pound, good activity on top. He does have another gear, doesn't really show it consistently enough for me though. Tough fight when I look at it at its surface. Sean Woodson at -300, I do think is a little steep. We haven't seen enough of Collin Anglin at this level, so we don't know if he is a UFC level or not. I think the technical point type of striking will go in Woodson's favor. And I think Anglin, might, of course, has the advantages on the ground, but it's going to be interesting to see how true Sean Woodson's 81% takedown defense is. I do think it will hold up for the most part. And I do think, again, his advantages on the feet will get a job done here. So Sean Woodson will be my pick.
Yeah, I do not like the odds here. I look at Collin Anglin. I think he's a dog here. I think he has a good chance to win this fight. He has heart. He has decent cardio. He has that ground game. He has that pressure. But again, as you mentioned here, Woodson has that takedown defense. He knows how to keep it on his feet. I don't see Anglin able to wrestle for 3 rounds, and I think that's what he needs to do. So he may have success with the wrestling early on, but I don't see him getting those takedowns throughout the fight. So as the fight goes on, or even from the beginning of the fight, I can see Sean Woodson utilizing that long reach, that piston jab, that fast jab. He has really good boxing at the UFC level. So I'm going to go Sean Woodson here to keep this on the feet here. Maybe deal with a bit of adversity early on. But I think as the fight goes on, I think he's going to stop the takedowns and outbox Collin Anglin with his reach.
Fight number 5, Miguel Baeza taking on Khaos Williams. Baeza lost his first fight of his career. That was to Santiago Ponzinibbio in June. We did learn a lot about Baeza in that fight, or at least I did. Still a talented prospect, has speed, uses the calf kick a lot, very good boxing, kickboxing, good pop in his punches as well. He has that switch stance to him, good striking defense, pretty tall fighter for the division, 6'2". Uses it to fight from the outside, good distance control in addition to that movement. I personally think he does have some of the best pure boxing in the UFC. But again, that Ponzinibbio fight showed us they might not be able to take a hit. So that's going to be very interesting, of course, going up against Khaos Williams. A quick additional point I'll mention with Miguel Baeza, he also has a BJJ black belt should the fight go to the ground, which I don't think it will. Khaos Williams, of course, he did beat Matthew Semmelsberger back in June. Bit of a one-trick pony, has that scary power in his hands. He will show some fake jab. He will show some low kicks. But both are really meant to set up those power punches. Essentially, he's going to look for that opportunity to explode, let the punches go. He definitely slows down as the fight goes on. But in his last fight, he showed that he can still do enough to edge out the victory in that Semmelsberger fight. With Khaos Williams, ultimately he can clip Baeza here at any time. That can change the entire course of the fight. I do think that is a real threat, a legitimate threat. And I do think that's why the odds are as close as they are. Because outside of that, I do look for Miguel Baeza to be the technically cleaner striker. I look for him to sort of just outpoint Khaos Williams for almost the entire fight. But again, like I said, that last fight, maybe some cardio concerns, maybe some chin concerns. And that's 2 things that Khaos Williams can seriously impact. So I'm not going to be too strong on betting on this, but I will pick Miguel Baeza for the channel.
Yeah, this is tough because Khaos has that power that you got to respect. And obviously that first round, he can put out Baeza. Baeza has shown that he can't really take it. And as the fight gets tough, he kind of withers away a bit. But I'm actually going to go with Miguel Baeza. I think his last fight, he was just facing a tough opponent. This is a step down in competition for Baeza. He was put in the UFC. They gave him Matt Brown. They gave him Hector Aldana. And then they gave him Takashi Sato. And these are all wins. And Takashi Sato is a good win in the UFC. So I think this is a fight that, as the fight goes on, I think Baeza is going to be able to be the more precise striker, land the better shots. And I think because Khaos is a bit wild, I think he can actually get a finish in this fight. So I'm going to go Miguel Baeza to get the win here.
Moving on to fight number 6, we have Cynthia Calvillo taking on Andrea Lee. For Calvillo, she lost to Jessica Andrade in September. Decently reliable in the stand-up, good head movement. She is able to pick up the pace when needed. Good strength for the division. We saw that in the Jessica I fight. She does have that wrestling as well. Pretty solid grappler as well. Decent overall fighter in Cynthia Calvillo. For Andrea Lee, on the other hand, she beat Antonina Shevchenko in May. She is a Thai style of fighter. A lot of head movement leading into combinations with both hands and the feet. She does use that jab quite consistently, which is a great thing. She does try to cover up as well defensively, gets into a lot of striking exchanges. She definitely welcomes them on. And I think her wrestling is a little underrated in some ways. We do see almost 2 takedowns per fight, over 50% takedown accuracy. So the numbers do show for it. Let's see how much of a factor that is here. I think ultimately it comes down to this. Andrea Lee looked pretty good in her last fight. Calvillo hasn't looked good in a little while, in my opinion. I think Lee's striking could be a little bit too much here. We've seen Calvillo be overwhelmed with striking. I think about the Caitlin Chukagian fight as an example. I don't think Calvillo specifically has any advantage with wrestling here over Lee. Lee might be the hungrier fighter, especially after beating Antonina Shevchenko on a big pay-per-view card a few months back. I think she's looking to build some momentum around her name. And I think that's going to sort of push her over the edge here. And as the slight underdog, as the plus 100 underdog, I think she will get the job done. And I think her striking will be the difference. Andrea Lee is going to be my pick.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good fight. I actually think Calvillo has the better wrestling here. And I think in that first round, if she's able to get her on the mat, get some top control, she's definitely live for a submission or a finish in that first round. But I think as the fight goes on, I think Andrea Lee is going to stuff these takedowns. And I think, her striking is going to shine. She's going to be the better striker. Judges lately have been giving a lot of credit to the striking, which is a good thing. And I can see after the second round, gets into the third round, I can see Andrea Lee having the advantage. This stays on the feet because Calvillo's a bit tired to wrestle more. And I think Andrea Lee is gonna be able to shine in the striking and in the second and third round. So I'm gonna go Andrea Lee. I think this is a fight that she could win here, stop the takedowns, and she's definitely the better striker.
Final fight of our prelims, fight number 7. We have Thiago Moisés taking on Joel Alvarez. For Moisés, he lost to Islam Makhachev back in July. Obviously, cannot be too mad at that. Very well-rounded fighter. However, pretty quick in terms of his striking. He likes that calf kick. He'll use a Muay Thai kickboxing style on the feet. So it's a pretty good, diverse skill set on the feet in general. Good in and out movement. He's pretty composed and polished. He'll go for the takedowns as well. Pretty normally in fights, we see only 1 takedown per fight at 35%, but he will still go for it. And he is a good grappler. Has a BJJ black belt, so very credentialed and accomplished on the ground. For Joel Alvarez, on the other hand, it's been over a year since his last fight. He beat Alexander Yakovlev in October 2020. 3-fight win streak going back to that time. Submission specialist here. 16 of his 18 wins are via submission. A lot of them are first round finishes. Decent movement on the feet, decent calf kick. He'll use kicks in general on the feet primarily from what I've seen from him. Willing to pull guard. He's one of those few that really trusts his submissions. And I mention that because he doesn't really have any takedowns to his name in 4 UFC fights, but he still averages over 1.5 submissions per fight. So that definitely is a sign of pulling guard or looking for opportunistic submissions, but not necessarily bringing the fight to the ground intentionally. I do think Thiago Moisés a little bit more advanced on the feet. I also think that Thiago Moisés, as a BJJ black belt and as a Brazilian, has to at least be able to match what Alvarez provides with his grappling and with his submission threats. Alvarez is very live here, in my opinion, but I think Thiago Moisés really is just the better overall fighter and a little bit more battle tested at this point. Thiago Moisés is going to be my pick.
Yeah, this is a tough fight. This is two grapplers going in. We're gonna find out who is the better grappler. I think Thiago Moisés has high level jiu-jitsu. I think he has good position control. He's good at getting the side mount. He's gonna get in the full mount. He's really good. He's really good in the back position on your back. But I like Joel Alvarez's jiu-jitsu where he goes for the finish. He's going to, like, if he gets a little room, he's gonna submit you. He's not trying to get the best position. He's just going for the win. One thing I like about Joel Alvarez, what I noticed is that from his fight with Danilo Belluardo to his fight with Joe Duffy, from his fight with Damir Ismagulov to his fight with Danilo Belluardo, Duffy, and Yakolev, his striking improved a lot to me. And he's looking sharp. He's looking sharp. He's gonna be the taller guy. He's what, 6'3". Thiago Moisés is 5'9". I'm expecting a better striker in this fight. I'm expecting Joel Alvarez to be a better striker in this fight. And I don't think Moisés is that great. He's decent. He's legit, but I don't think he's that great in the striking. I think that the height, the reach could be the difference here. So I'm going to go with Joel Alvarez here to get this done. I know that Thiago Moisés has fought the better competition, but I think that Joel Alvarez, 18 wins and 2 losses, I think this is a spot he could win. Is it the underdog in this spot?
He is plus 200.
Yeah, I'm going at, especially at those odds. I'm definitely looking at, I'm going to go with Joel Alvarez. A fight that I think is 50-50.
Speaking of odds, we are going to take it to Vegas, and we're going to take a look at what this card has to offer. Let me just load up the bets there. So we're going to start with, of course, considering the prelim card, we are going to start with underdog picks. Who is your underdog? Would it be Joel Alvarez, or is there another underdog you think has the best shot at winning?
Well, I think Andrea Lee is the best underdog to look at. I think it should be a pick 'em, or she should be slight favorite. So I think Andrea Lee is that one.
Yeah, I'm also going to echo that pick in Andrea Lee being the best underdog that has a shot at winning here. And in terms of putting kind of a favorite ticket or a parlay ticket together, who would you be looking at?
You know, that's tough. That is tough. In my opinion, this is a real tough card. But if I had to make a choice here, I'll go with no, you go first, man. Actually, you know what? I got it. Cortney Casey. I usually don't put females in my parlays, but I'm going to go Cortney Casey. And I'm also going to roll with Sean Woodson and Marc Diakiese.
So those three would be a plus 209. $100 will return 309 for our bigger bettors. $250 will return 773. If I were to take a look at mine, and I will echo your sentiment, this is a very difficult card. This typically happens after a pay-per-view event, so this doesn't surprise me. If I were to consider a parlay, I am looking at Marc Diakese as well. I am looking at Sean Woodson as well. And I might just have to leave it at those two and just look for a double up and play the main card after that. That would be a plus 109. $100 will return 209, and for our bigger bettors, $250 will return 523. Let's sign off at that point. This has been the UFC Vegas 42, aka UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. preliminary card prediction video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And before we go, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up on this video. Hit that notification bell as well so you know when we come out with our prediction videos. And most importantly, participate in the comments. Let us know how you feel about our picks. There was a number of different picks that we had. Let us know who you think is going to be more right than the other. Let us know how you feel, what your specific picks are. And of course, if there is specific parlay action that you want some additional insight on, we are more than happy to have all of that conversation in the comments below. Once again, UFC Vegas 42, aka UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez, prelim card prediction video. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. We are Boxing MMA Picks. And as usual, let's get this money.
Let's do it.